Hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to my channel. It's Membranes Teaching Channel. All right, for today, we will be discussing about the parts of a flower. Our learning goal is to identify and describe the parts of a flower. All right, so we start. What is a flower? There's so many descriptions of a flower. So one of them is, it is called the bloom of the plant. Well, that's true. It is the blossom of the plant and the most attractive part of the plant, of course. It is also known as the seed-bearing part of the plant. All right, so, and because today we will learn the parts of a flower, here we are. Those are incomplete flowers and one complete flower. All right. So first of all, we have the stalk. The stalk is also named as peduncle. It holds the flower upright. Without it, the flower is going to bend. All right. After that, we have the receptacle. And the receptacle is the part of the stalk where the parts of the flower are attached. It holds the whole flower. So from the stalk, it will go up to the receptacle. And later, the sepal. The sepal is the outer part of the flower that encloses the developing bud. If you have seen a rose bud, you probably would say, well, there is no flower in it. But the one that encloses it is the sepal. And a group of sepals is a calyx. We will have that later on. All right, so that green part, which looks like a leaf, is the sepal. A group of them that encloses the whole flower when it was young is the calyx. All right, the petal. These are called petals, the three of them, 4, 5, however they are, whatever petals they have. There are numerous of them. There are several of them. The parts of a flower that are often conspicuously bright colored are the petals. Why? Because they need to attract bees, butterflies, insects, and other pollinators. So bees, butterflies, and even man is also a pollinator. So the bright colored part of the flower are the petals. They are bright colored. All right. Knowing that a flower has male and female parts, let's try to discuss them. All right, to the left section of this are the female parts, while on the right are the male parts. And you can see that the female part of the flower is the pistil, while the male part of a flower is the stamen. So pistil and stamen. Remember that. So you have the stalk, you have the sepal, you have the receptacle, and the petals. All of those yellow things are the petals. Now let's discuss each of them. We first go to the female parts of a flower. So what are they? One is the stigma. The stigma, sticky. Stigma is in the pistil. This is the pistil, the long stalk here, where pollen germinates. You know what germination is, when the seed is about to become a seed. All right, the next part is the pistil. The pistil is also known as the style and is the ovule producing part of the flower. So this is the pistil. It is the female part. Remember, in the last presentation I had. So there are ovules here. Once this is pollinated, the ovules are going down, and it will now be deposited in the ovary. The ovary is the enlarged basal portion of the pistil, and this black thing here is one of them. That is where ovules are produced. So the female parts of a flower are, don't forget, the female parts of the flower are responsible for seed bearing and reproduction. And the stigma, pistil, and the ovary are parts of it. Get it? Now we come to the male parts of the flower. The male parts of a flower is, of course, in general, is the stamen. But let's try to look at each of them. First is the anther. The anther is up here too. So if this is the style, the stigma, the male part has the anther, which is it looks like a bud also. That is the part of the stamen, and that is where pollen is produced. And later we will have the filament. The filament is the long and slender part of the stamen that holds the anther. So this is the filament. Now the stamen is to produce pollen and make it available for pollinators. I mentioned some pollinators already, to allow reproduction. So now the male parts are the anther, the filament, and the stamen. And to sum it up, here they are. The male parts of the flower are responsible for pollinating the pistil. The filament, anther, and the stamen are the male parts of the flower. So I hope it is clear now. All right. So flowers can be classified in two types also. It can either be complete or incomplete. It is complete if it has all four parts: the sepals, petals, stamen, and pistil. They are called complete flowers. So an example of it is the rose and hibiscus. There's a lot more if we can name some of them. Here they are, rose and the hibiscus. They are complete flower because they have all four parts. Now, they can also be incomplete if one of the four parts of the flowers is missing. One or two parts of the flower is missing. An example of these are begonia, pumpkin. This is a pumpkin flower. Papaya. No, that is not papaya. That is corn flower. And this is watermelon flower. Now, let me tell you about a corn. Probably you have not even come close to a corn flower. Look, this is a corn flower. It doesn't have a stamen. So one of the parts is missing. That's why it's considered incomplete. Now we have the pumpkin flower. It only has a female part. It doesn't have a male part. Same is true with watermelon. That's why they are called incomplete. Something has to complete them. What will happen is that if the pumpkin flower is a female one, a male flower has to pollinate it so that it will become a fruit. The same is true with a watermelon flower. If this is a male one, it has to look for some, or maybe bees and butterflies has to stick on it or sip its nectar. And then the pollen will be sticking on their bodies. And if it happens to go to another female flower of the same watermelon plant, that will help in pollination. You see how it happened? But that will be our next lesson. All right, so now we have, finally, here are the parts of a flower. I mentioned earlier the pollen is that of a male plant. These are the stamen. Here are the petals. The group of petals are called corolla, and the group of sepals are called calyx. Group of sepals are calyx, and group of petals are corolla. So if I ask you, what do you think are the groups of petals in that particular flower? Then your answer should be corolla. And the group of sepals, the group of green things in a flower are called sepals. All right, so we're done. We're done with that. And now is your test. What is part number 1? It is the colored part. What is part 2? That is the female part of a flower. And what do you call the one that holds it? The long, slender stalk that holds the female part. And now we will have this part of this is the male part that has pollen. What do you call that? And the 5th one is this one. What do you call this one? The green part that encloses a bud when it was young. And the last one is, what do you call this? The one that holds the flower. And I think that is all for today. Don't forget, if you can subscribe, I would appreciate it. I would love it. And your follow matters to me. Thank you and have a great day. Bye now.